So Jerome Powell was on 60 Minutes. Did you miss it? I got you. This is important. So if you don't know who Jerome Powell is, he's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. A lot of economists will tell you he's the most important person when it comes to the economy. So if you're not familiar with the Federal Reserve Bank, they're not actually federal. That's not important. The main thing that they do is they set the federal funds rate. It's kind of the only thing they do. But that rate affects a lot of other things. For you, it's probably most important when it comes to auto loans or mortgage rates. So the federal funds rate right now is at about 5.5%. 23-year high. It's been like that for around the last 6 months. They come out for these meetings. They either raise the rate, lower the rate, keep it exactly the same. They do this roughly every 6 weeks. If you didn't know, why would you know? So how the heck did we get here, Jerome?
And when the federal government spent $5 trillion to keep the economy afloat.
That is the start of it. And then, the Fed went out and they lowered rates to record lows. People started losing their minds and going crazy and buying up everything. And inflation spiked to 9%. And Powell actually admitted that they probably misstepped during that time.
Was the Fed too slow to recognize inflation in 2021?
So in hindsight, it would have been better to have tightened policy earlier.
That's as good as you're going to get as far as admission goes with somebody in our government. But then the Fed went out, they raised rates 11 times. It possibly saved the economy without us falling into a deep recession. Jury's still out on that one. Inflation has dropped down to around 3%, but not everybody was down with this plan.
And I hope you'll reconsider that as you drive this, before you drive this economy off a cliff.
So we're down to 3%. We're good, right? Right?
Is inflation dead?
I wouldn't go quite so far as that.
So Jerome has been very consistent that their goal is to get the inflation number down to around 2%. So as we itch closer to that number, that's when they're going to be comfortable to start cutting the rates. How are we looking for March, Jerome?
I think it's not likely that this committee will reach that level of confidence in time for the March meeting.
All right, so it looks like at best we'll start to see those cuts maybe in May if everything keeps trending in the right direction. But this is when the interview starts to get really good as we take on some other important topics. First off, the national debt.
30 years from now, it is projected to be $144 trillion.
That's $1 million a household.
But is the national debt a danger to the economy, in your view?
In the long run, the U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path. And that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy.
Yeah. Seems unsustainable, Jerome. Seems like a problem.
Over the long run, of course it does. We're borrowing from future generations.
Well, Jerome's 71 years old, so not his problem. But 2 more topics, then I'm going to get you guys out of here. Let's start off with commercial real estate, major issue everyone's been talking about. Let's see what Jerome thinks.
What is the likelihood of another real estate-led banking crisis?
I don't think that's likely. We looked at the larger banks' balance sheets, and it appears to be a manageable problem. There's some smaller and regional banks that have concentrated exposures in these areas that are challenged. And, we're working with them.
Big banks are fine. No worries. What about the small regional banks, Jerome?
Certainly there will be some banks that have to be closed or merged out of existence because of this.
That's not good, people. It's good for old Jamie here, but not for me and you. I mean, let's go ahead and consolidate all the small banks into the big banks and, put all the power back in the people who... That's in 2008. Cool. But let's finish things off with the election year coming up. How's that going to affect your work, Jerome?
To what degree does politics determine your timing?
We do not consider politics in our decisions. We never do, and we never will.
Now, before you assume that he's some kind of Biden puppet, just know that he worked under Bush. He got appointed by Obama. Trump made him chairman, and Biden just kind of kept him on board. So he's kind of good on both ends of the spectrum. But convince me that you're going to do the right thing, Jerome.
Integrity is priceless. And at the end, that's all you have.
There's also the loads of money. Be kind.